Joe.
Hi, Boots.
So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man. You have a great name. What a great handle! Like the whole name, it just works really well. Looks great on paper. Sounds good coming out of the mouth. I like it.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. We can thank my parents and
Yes.
the wonderful woman named Boot who lived down the street from us. So it's my legal middle name.
Wow. Right on. So, where are you
Isn't that
located?
neat?
Yeah, it's
I'm
great.
I'm in Teton Valley, Idaho. Do you know
Oh,
where that is?
I have been through that area. I went on an adventure in my 20s with friends. It was like we knew it was our last Fandango. And I remember kind of being up in that area. It's beautiful up there, isn't it?
Yes, I'm very lucky. And I look out my window right now and I see Wyoming, like I'm right on the state line. And then you go up and over Teton Pass into Jackson, Wyoming.
I just had a flashback to Sarah Palin saying, I can see Russia from Alaska.
Right? Right? I think of that every single time I
Yeah,
say
weird.
it.
Yes.
And you know what? We thought that was crazy then.
Right. Man.
Give me
Woo.
Sarah Palin. Just give me, I would do anything to have Sarah Palin.
How benign is it? I mean, I even think about George W. Bush and
Oh, yeah.
how bad could a guy be that got out of office and all he wanted to do is paint his foot in a shower? Like, could he really be that bad?
Right, exactly. I give us George W. I mean, I can't even watch late night anymore. It's just like they're trying to make it funny, and I'm like, none of this is funny. This isn't funny. This
It
is not funny.
it's like at that time of our lives we thought Thelma and Louise going over the cliff in the car was a big deal, but now it's like breaking in half with missiles coming in and dinosaurs trying to go. It's like everything's turned into a clown show, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's wild.
Yeah,
So
especially yesterday. Like I like just had to walk away from the TV. I was like, Jason, my husband, I was like, you're on your own if you want to keep watching all this, but
I don't do it anymore. Like I look online and I'll like scroll through it, won't even pay attention, but it's just gotten too clowny, way too clowny.
yeah.
So,
Um, I've been binging your episodes.
oh,
I
cool.
love your how you do your interviews, and
Thank
I
you.
love jazz, and so I've been listening to both. And
Right
I'm
on.
just the great thing about Podmatch is I'm learning about all these podcasts that I haven't heard about, and then
Yeah.
I get to meet wonderful people like yourself and have really cool
Yeah.
conversations.
It's
So,
it's it's the modern version of therapy. So if we take the other side of what we just talked about with living through modern times, this really is kind of a common ground because I don't think we're as divided as we are. I think there's been forces that are kind of wedging that. But I think we all realize when we do this that we're meeting wonderful people in the world that have excellent stories, and we're all really going for the same thing. We're all going for this level of happiness and fulfillment and family and friends, and it's not as divided and weird and anarchy and civil war and all this other stuff. So it's pretty cool. I like it, you
I
know.
can't agree anymore. Yeah, yeah. You see, we're meant to be friends.
Yeah, see, exactly. It was meant to be. And I gotta say, before we get into our conversation, on paper, you have so much going on. You're a survivor first and foremost, and there's all of these levels that go into who you are. And I love your pictures. The picture of you in front of the window with the reflection, it's one of the better pictures I've seen on this platform of somebody putting up a biopic. Really good
Oh,
picture.
wow. I
Very
will tell my
reflective.
friend Laura.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. She took
Yeah.
that picture.
I,
Oh,
I'm a photographer at heart, so whenever I see something like that, it's like it was a very revealing. Just there's so much going on in it. I mean, it's simple in the way that it was set, but there's a lot going on in it. Whenever you
hmm.
got reflections, it's a good thing. So it's
Thank you.
wonderful.
And
Absolutely.
and that was in 2021 during COVID, and I
Yeah.
had just had my heart surgery, and my mom was dying.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's
I
heavy.
had a lot to think about.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Lots
Hmm.
going on. Which that's where I want to start with everything is
Okay.
we all lived through the pandemic for 3.5 years. It was pretty tumultuous. How did you get through that time period and how did it change you ultimately?
Well, I laugh because I'm a little I'm very aware of what I'm about to say. So I'll just go ahead and say it, and then I'll say why I just said that.
Yeah,
Um, I didn't have the luxury of worrying about the pandemic.
right.
I really didn't.
Sure.
So my heart was going to kill me first.
Yeah.
And my mom, so in June of 2020, my mom and my mother-in-law were both diagnosed with cancer. My car engine blew up, and then I had a heart attack all in the same week. And I was at the like height of my athleticism, 42 years old, skier at Jacksonville Mountain Resort, like was really thriving. And yes, I had been worried about the pandemic. I was a teacher. I focused on students with dyslexia at that point in my career. And I had to quickly pivot and teach online, and I had to manage all these little people. And, they were terrified and not understanding what was really unfolding before us. And so it was just a lot to manage. And then once the cancer diagnoses came and my car engine blew up, and then I learned that my heart is actually a dumpster fire of congenital defects, which is what caused the heart attack, COVID slipped away. Like it just kind of became this annoying background noise that really complicated both complicated my access to healthcare and my mom and mother-in-law's. And it actually really it really affected me in that it prolonged a much needed heart surgery because all the ICU beds were taken everywhere. And so I just found it as like this really annoying noise that you can't get to turn off, like, like a fire alarm or smoke detector, and you can't reach it, and you have to go get a special ladder to like go get this smoke detector to shut up.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find the ladder and I
Yeah.
couldn't control it. Like that was COVID to me, was like
Yeah.
this annoying smoke alarm.
Yeah. I get it. I totally get it. So let me get to the heart and soul of what you do for a living. If I put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids and one of the kids, it's career day, asks you, what do you do for a living? How do you answer them?
I actually now help other heart patients. I talk on a podcast. Host a podcast called The Heart Chamber that is for open heart surgery patients, their caregivers, and their medical teams.
Okay. Okay. So how did you get to this point? Where were you born and raised, and what were some of the seeds that got into you to become who you are?
I was born in Eastern North Carolina near the Outer Banks, in a beautiful little town. It's actually called the prettiest town in the Southeast, Edenton. And I actually grew up thinking I'd be a meteorologist, and I was actually thinking I would major in meteorology in college, but then I found out I had to take physics, like a lot of physics. And so then I pivoted and focused on biology, which was also a great choice.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I became a high school science teacher after I did some ski instructing. Of course, then I would eventually go back to ski instructing at Jacksonville Mountain Resort. But I have a master's degree in curriculum and instruction, and I really worked my way up in ski school and almost finished all of my level 3 stuff before my heart took over. But yeah, I've had a very long career of teaching, like paying it forward, teaching in some degree or another. So I see my podcast as another way of me teaching, and actually now I focus on teaching heart patients how to thrive post open heart surgery, not just to survive it,
Right.
but to thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. So, obviously you've had to have inspirational people around you in your life. Who's been that for you? Who's been a hero? Who's been someone you've looked up to?
Gosh, I mean, so many. Most recently, it's been Lindsey Vaughn. I just find her to be such an inspiration. She broke herself so many times in skiing, and still managed to be one of the most winningest skiers of all time. I mean, obviously Michaela has passed her now, But as someone, I just adore skiing, and it's why I moved to the Tetons. I live in Victor, Idaho. It's skiing is life for me and my husband. And so I have just really admired how she went through how she walked herself through those injuries, but then also how she continues to have a huge impact in her retirement. She does so much to further skiing, the conversation around skiing. And I've met her, and she's actually a really genuine, kind woman.
That's good.
Yeah, and that always feels good, right? Like you're
Yeah.
always worried, like, oh, is my hero really a jerk? But
Yeah.
no, she's actually really lovely.
That's
So
good. That's good.
yeah.
So if you could meet somebody else, anybody on the planet, who would you love to meet?
Stephen Colbert.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But the reason why I want to meet Steven, it's not only because he just seems like a really genuine guy, and I
Mhm.
love his relationship with his wife, Evie. Like they just seem so in love still after all the years they've been married. And
Yeah.
I really love how much he respects her.
Yeah.
And he has shown that on his show.
Yeah.
But he's deaf in one of his ears, and I was born with a serious hearing deficit in one of mine. And so I just, even though he is partially deaf, he still is an amazing singer. Look what he has accomplished in his life.
Yeah.
And I just have so much respect for him. And he's also like, and on his show, he is just speaking to the bullshit that
Yeah.
is happening and not standing for anything less than what should be morally right and true for the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. So, being a survivor, being someone that's an educator, helping people, it takes a lot out of you. What is your motivation every day? What gets you up and moving and motivated to not only help people but to be the best version of you?
Well, I just did a TEDx talk on this. I spoke on the TEDx stage on November the 4th. It's not out yet. But the title of my talk was Practicing Dying for Living. And I focused on the 5 minutes before my open heart surgery in 2021 and what that taught me. And what they did was my surgeon had me sign a piece of paper acknowledging I could die in open heart surgery because they had to stop my heart. And they stopped my heart for over an hour, which is just bananas when you think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah,
That
that's
that can,
crazy.
and here I am having a normal conversation, right? Like that just blows my mind.
Yeah. It's wild.
And it's been almost 3 years and I'm still like, what the heck? But anyway, after I signed that paper and he walked away, he left me alone for like over 5 minutes, and it was like 7 a.m. in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I got to watch the sunrise, and it was like this really special 5 minutes for me, the most special of my life.
Yeah.
And I took a trip to the end of my life and thought about if I had any regrets. And I had two of them. I hadn't skied enough, and I hadn't yet written a book. And what that really taught me was I hadn't fully experienced all of the joy that life is meant to bring you, and that I hadn't fully lived my life's purpose. I did a whole like deep dive in what those two answers really meant. And they were more surface answers that got me to like where I'm at to answer this question, which is there's not a day that goes by when I wake up in the morning that I don't think about that 5 minutes and how it could have turned out much differently. And you
Yeah.
and I wouldn't be sitting here having this interview.
Yeah.
And I don't take that for granted.
Yeah.
And it's nothing upsets me anymore, really. Like I watch what's happening on the world stage and the national stage, and it just doesn't affect my nervous system like it used to. And I got really clear on what I can control, on what's really important in my life and what I can't control. And that if I get caught up in this us versus them thinking, the war machine, the all the things that media tells us to be upset and worried about, I wouldn't be able to function.
Yeah.
So I've been able to really push out all that noise now and just do the next right thing every day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so um did you, during that time, did you see anything about the other side? Did you experience anything? No?
I don't have any memory of it.
Okay. Yeah. That's
So I
wild.
say that because I could have, and I just don't remember.
Yeah.
But I will say that since that experience, my intuition and my like sixth sense is like crazy town. Like it
Yeah.
is, I kind of know things before they happen. I can really predict things now. Every morning I write first thing in the morning, and I basically channel. I can just like, it's like my higher self is talking to me about what is the next right thing to do. And it's really uncanny what superpowers I gained from that heart surgery
Yeah.
besides getting to live.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, obviously I was knocked down a few pegs too. Like the physical act of having open heart surgery is no joke.
Yeah.
But what I gained is far outweighs the physical effects. Like, and then I ended up having to have 2 more surgeries. And so I look like I've been in a real knife fight.
Yeah.
um, but luckily I'm not a vain person. So,
Yeah.
and I think scars are kind of cool.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned that 5 minutes. I had to put my dog, I had to put her down the other day, and
uh,
my son's 18 and he's on the spectrum, and I tried to tangentially let him know, but I had to hide it because it would have been too much. He was getting ready to go to school, and I sat there with her name's Coco, and I sat there on the couch with her, and I was petting her, and it was a really uncharacteristically warm day. And